thought I would just talk on get straight to the point basically about why is it, right, that a lot of people struggle to believe in the possibility of there being a life after death, or why they would struggle to believe that there's ghosts, or why people would struggle to believe that there could be a god, right? Well, when I look at the facts, right, of why a lot of people are can be in that situation, why they can struggle to believe, they just believe everything's mainly just physical. So a lot of people can have an atheistic mindset. Um, so and it can seem like as if it's the majority of the public are like that. So one of the biggest explanations as to why this has actually happened, you have to go back in time. See, back in the ancient world, religion was pretty much controlling the public. There would have probably been more religious people, probably, or a lot of people would have been more religious in the ancient world, just because of what they've been taught. Now, when you look at this day and age, right? In this day and age, that even if you had all the facts in the world that proved that the spirit world did exist, the scientific community would never ever teach on it, and the schools would never teach on it. And you might be thinking to yourself, as a paranormal expert, you might be wondering, well, why is that? Why is society trying to debunk all of this, the existence of a supernatural world? Because that's the next thing, is that that sometimes you would have a bunch of scientists coming out as believers in the supernatural, so they tell the other scientists that, look, the supernatural has to exist because of this fact and this fact and this fact. But the rest of the scientists usually just say that they're lying. So the scientific community just discards it. Now you might be wondering, why is this? Why would this be happening? Why is the society more atheistic like? It's because of propaganda, right? When you go back to the 1700s, okay, Adam Weishaupt of the Illuminati, the Bavarian Illuminati, and as well as other Illuminati members and Freemasons, basically they removed the church from the schools. Okay, so when you remove the church from the schools, people start to become more materialistic in their thinking. They don't think about God or the supernatural. And that's what's happened, isn't it? Because back in the olden days, in the 1700s, the church was pretty much controlling the schools, wasn't it? But nowadays, that's not what's going on nowadays. Nowadays, it's more like because the Illuminati and the Freemasons were trying to remove the church from the schools and put the schools more into state hands. So it works in favor for the government and not for the church, right? Okay, so you can start to see where things are starting to go now, right? It's really that simple. So then you end up having people thinking less about God and paying more attention to the physical world. Now, when it comes to the other area, you find the Illuminati were the forerunners for anarchism, communism, and a bit of nihilism. You find that they're the forerunners of all of this, okay, and atheistic communism. So the people just become more materialistic in their thinking, and right. So and then when you look at because remember, where do the science, science, a lot of it's kind of integrated into the schools as well, isn't it? Well, when you look at the olden scientists like Sir Isaac Newton, they were all religious. Even Darwin was religious, believed in God, right? But nowadays most people will not believe that. Nowadays the scientists are usually atheistic in their thinking. See, when you look at like Darwin and you look at all these other, like say Erasmus Darwin, he was a type of Freemason as well. I think it was quite high up as well. I think it was 33 degree. That's Charles Darwin's grandfather, or it's either his grandfather or great grandfather. I can't remember. But yeah, you find that a lot of these scientists, like Isaac Newton and all of them, were actually religious. They believed that there was an existence of a god. But things have changed, you see, because of the Illuminati. Because they wanted to remove religion from society altogether. And they wanted to get rid of healthy morals. Okay? They've been successful with it. United Nations, if you look at the plans of the United Nations, they also talk about, in order for them to have a world government, they need to rid religious dogma from the minds of men. You know, and break up families, things like that. These are the techniques. Break up families to get rid of the morals from the public. When people are more atheistic like in their thinking, it means that they will become more rebellious because they won't feel like there's a higher power watching over them. You know, they won't have any fears of, well, I could go to hell if I do this. And then you end up having a world of fornicators everywhere, you know? Because fornicators will go to the lake of fire, you see. The same with the liars and the thieves and adulterers. So all healthy mortals that Adam Weishaupt wanted to get rid of. He was against the church, you see. Right? And you find they wanted to break up families, the Illuminati. And you find that the United Nations wants the male population to be disloyal to family traditions. They don't want the normal family traditions to be around, you see. They want people to just pretty much go from one person to another, to another, to another, which is to do with the sex revolution, which interestingly came certain ideas of this sex revolution had connections. Some of it had connections with the early 18th century. Remember, at the same time that Adam Weishaupt came about, you know, it's to do with liberation, because he wanted to bring liberation, you see, to mankind. And then, of course, it leads into, eventually, when you remove religion, people become immoral, and then they eventually bring out movements like sexual liberation, where they don't have to go by the norms anymore. They don't have to get married anymore. Again, get rid of the marriage, you know. So you have people just moving from one partner to another. So the sexual revolution had really messed up, has pretty much messed up the world. So so not only do you get people having STDs, but you can have people regretting being like that. You can have people being psychologically raped because of them doing those immoral activities, right? But these people at the top, the people in high positions of power that are trying to encourage the public to be fornicators, they're not going to be caring about people's physical and psychological health. Now, aren't they? They're not going to, as long as they're working towards the United Nations goals. So yeah, I'm quite convinced that this sexual revolution was to help mess up families. So you have people having affairs and adultery and things like that. When you look at the divorce rates of women that have had 2 or more sex partners, have got the highest divorce rates, you know. Again, this is to do with the sexual revolution. Basically, to get the public to sleep with anybody or anything that moves, practically. And then you find that in satanic cults, it's all about sexual immorality. And Adam Weishaupt, again, traces back to Luciferianism, doesn't it? And when you look at the Baal worship, what are the 2 things that they had was sexual immorality and human sacrifice, which happens nowadays in the form of Satanism. Human sacrifice and sexual immorality, usually temple prostitutes, things like that. It's part of pleasing Satan, because Satan is called the god of this world. In Mary Baxter's book, The Demons Down in Hell, were given orders to other demons to break up families up on the surface of the earth when she heard their conversations down in hell. They wanted to break up all of the families. That these were direct orders from Satan, or Lucifer, if you want to call him that. And they've got Lucifer connected to the United Nations as well. Lucifer's Trust of United Nations because of Alice Bailey, who wrote New Age books, and the New Age philosophies of studying the ancients again traces back to Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, of studying the ancients for the world of or enlightenment, you know. So it's quite a rant, isn't it? So anyway, to keep it simple, the reason why people struggle to believe in the supernatural anyway is mainly because they've removed the church. So whenever these people have supernatural experiences, all their friends are going to laugh at them because their friends have been indoctrinated in the schools and are not used to the idea that there could be a supernatural. And that's why they have difficulty believing it. You know? So about 2 minutes. So that's what, you know, so this is me just going through the facts, you know, that anybody could easily research. Because that is what happened. The situation didn't happen that a bunch of scientists basically were just so smart that they managed to figure out that there can't be a spirit world because we never see it, and that there can't be God because we can't see him. So he probably doesn't really exist, you know. That's not what happened. You know, the school systems were designed a certain way so the church would never be integrated with the schools or with any areas of science. So they're going to have a communist type of country. So the science community becomes atheistic. And they'll have difficulty being able to compute the idea of a supernatural world. That's what's going on. It's not because they were so smart that they just figured out that there can't be a spirit world. It's because of these secret societies that are controlling people's reality, practically, like Freemasons and all of them. They've got some power to be able to do that. I mean, one of the members of the Illuminati said that Adam Weishaupt's plans, because he was part of the secret society, he heard the talks, and he says in the book Perfectibilists, he says that the plans of Adam Weishaupt are extremely cleverly well thought out. He says it's so well thought out that the church will never be able to defend themselves from it. It's so well thought out, he said. So that's the reason why our situation is the way it is. It's mainly because of Adam Weishaupt. I'm quite convinced of that. And it's because of the United Nations, which is almost like a form of Illuminati. Kind of rose out. Rockefeller's had connections with him as well. I think, yeah, Rockefeller's created the United Nations. Anyway, I think that's all I've got time for to speak about that. But just to keep it simple anyway. Anyway, bye for now.